Welcome to this new video. Today, I'm on my way to Germany.
Just waiting at the port, I guess.
But not just any place. I'm going to the Nürburgring.
Yesterday I didn't record much, it was a whole mess. So I hadn't slept for 28.5 hours, having worked a work shift, driven to Dover, been on the ferry, and then sat so many hours in traffic trying to get onto the Nürburgring. I'm gonna go fill up, and then I'm gonna go camp near the ring.
So the morning came. It was a wet and foggy morning, but that didn't put me off. I was hopeful that the track would dry up eventually and I would be able to get a few laps in.
Right, here I am at the Nürburgring. I can see safety cars moving on track. They've probably just done a check, yeah. There's a big vehicle there. I think they may be gritting the track. I don't know. It's 7:15. We can start heading there. I don't know what's going on really. That is a UK plate 8 series. I think it was an 848. Wow. I'm not seeing many UK plates, but that's one. So I'm going that way. He's going that way. And a lot of people are going that way.
It was time. Time I've been waiting for has come.
So I've done a couple more laps, but there's too many things going on today. It's too wet. At least now, in the morning still. I'm gonna readjust my camera. Put it here on the sunroof.
So then, having completed a few more laps, I was on to my third and fourth lap now. And I was trying a bit harder. I was still cautious, because I always knew about the 900 alleged euros a meter if you damaged their barriers. But I was trying. I also knew that there were faster cars around me, slower cars, and all sorts. And there were also people that know the track a bit more than me. Considering you only pay €35 a lap, and you can come pretty much whenever you want, a lot of people come often. So they get a lot of experience under their belt. It's also a big track to learn. I've studied it in Assetto Corsa and other racing games, but it's nothing like the real world. You don't feel the car like you do in the real world. You don't understand the track conditions, and also, people don't just crash in the game. So there are no yellow flags. The carousel was just what I was expecting it to be, but slower for some reason. Maybe it's just my car, I don't know. towards the end of the third lap, I was starting to get a bit more confident. And usually towards the end of the Nordschleife, I would go a bit faster. Maybe it was because every time I would start a lap, it would be after a period of break. So I would go a bit slower and more cautiously, and then send it a bit harder towards the end. It was funny being one of the slowest cars on track, even though there were some others that looked slower, but they were clearly tuned. And by that effect, I think almost every single BMW was tuned. It was in good fun though. I wasn't trying to win any competitions, and I doubt there were any that I could win. But I loved the final straight every single time, getting up to about 200 kilometers an hour. It has the power, but it also has the weight. So that holds it back substantially, even on braking. Here I start my fourth lap, and as you can see from the barriers, I was just behind that Skoda, which looked rusty and all, but the guy is pushing about 220 horsepower on a chassis that weighs 2/3 of my car, maybe less. So needless to say, he probably has more torque than me, and more power to weight. You can see here how that Volkswagen just went past me. I mean, I held back for a split second. A lot of people were probably pushing 400 easy on very lightweight cars on the track that day. And of course, there were the Porsche 911s and the likes, you know, pushing 500, 600, 700 maybe horsepower on very lightweight chassis. And here we are, chasing the Skoda. And every now and then you can see I boot it, he boots it, and we stay at basically the same distance. Eventually he tries to let me go, signaling right. But I can't. I haven't got the power to overtake him. Even though it sounds like I do. Just like here. He's signaling right. He's accelerating. So am I. Nothing's happening. And finally, the good old saying, there's no replacement for displacement, came in handy. This pulls like a freight train above 110 miles an hour. You've probably noticed by now that I would only be using second and third gear, and every now and then, maybe on really long straights, fourth. But first is impossible to use while driving. It won't downshift. Second goes up to like 65, 70 bouncing the limiter. And third is good for 105, 110, depending on where you shift and how much you bounce the limiter. All in all, it was a decent learning curve. I never really were worried about my brakes. I mean, I wasn't going too fast either, but the Nürburgring is quite sort of wavy and stuff. You don't need to brake too often, you just need to let off the throttle and it slows down just enough for the next bend. It's also got pretty decent camber, so in a lot of bends you can just let the car take you around the bend and you do just fine. I find that what's intimidating are the barriers and the sheer length of it to try and remember every single bend. I had Waze on most of the time, which helped somewhat show me the track, but it's not good for high speed Waze. Look at this knobhead. He clearly hasn't read the rules and ethics of the Nürburgring. I mean, judging by the UK plate. I was coming up to the apex and he just decides to undertake me on the apex. I mean, I'm sure there are slower cars because they're not catching up to me, so of course you can't see them. And every now and then I approach some, but being the day that it was, I don't think any of the slow cars were there, because they were probably just too intimidated by the fact that it was Car Friday, and honestly, a lot of people came to the Nürburgring just for the car meet, just to see other cars and meet other people. I came just to race. Well, drive on the public road. Public toll road. And here we are, the carousel of the last lap. That's the second carousel before the last few bends. And of course there's a BMW flying past and an Audi. And then I take my revenge on this 330i. So those were the 4 laps.
So overall, I have done 4 laps, and I think I pretty much toasted the brakes. The ABS was kicking in way too often. I think it was the ABS. I'm hoping it was the ABS and not warped rotors, but you know, got to change them at some point anyways. But yeah, it started drying up. I mean, other cars were pretty much drying it up as well, because you could see on track the sort of the dry bits where cars have driven through. That was clearly what was happening. All the heat from the tires was sort of displacing the water and drying it up. But yeah, it's been good. I think it was a progressive getting better. The first couple weren't really that good. I mean, the first one wasn't for sure. And then I moved the camera placement. I thought I would have it there on the front, but then I put it back here where it usually is, because that way I can just have one camera for everything. And yeah, I started getting a bit more confident as well. I think I've got my rendezvous now, my places, I know the spots. For a first time at Nürburgring, that's pretty good. Hoping to do it again sometime. Maybe this year as well, but I have another track planned for this year as well in June. I'm not telling you what it is, you just have to wait and see. Soon enough I'm gonna have to make moves back to Calais to catch the ferry across to Britain, because I've got work tomorrow.
I lied. I did a 15-minute stint on the Grand Prix track because I was like, look, I'm still here. You know, I'll make it to the ferry. I'll make it back to work. And my friend convinced me. So here it is. This track was shorter, a lot easier to learn, but it seems there were a lot faster cars on it. People would overtake on either side. There was no concern here. It was drier though, which worked out in everyone's favour, as, at least finally, I could get my blood flowing a little bit better. Even though, because of the corners on this track, I cooked my brakes eventually. Oh, and so did others, as you'll soon see. It was fun. I had my friend as a passenger. Here you can see I was taking a bit slower at first. But clearly others weren't. And here I was testing the brakes just to see how bad they were, and I think I had cooked something because I was foot to the floor and I had probably boiled the brake fluid. Also, just check out the freeze frames on how much this guy has cooked his brakes. Either that, or the pads were glazed, which it wouldn't take too long to unglaze them, to sort of resurface them, because the drilled and slotted rotors, the slots clean them up quite easily. I love bouncing the limiter in this car. And look just how close they were tailgating each other. Crazy how the Germans drive when they're not on the public road. I mean, even on the public road they still do. And this was the end of it all. Had a lot of fun. What can I say? I started driving back to France about 5 hours just to catch the ferry, which I missed, but good enough. They allow you to enter on a later one, and that was that. I'm hoping to go again, because I clearly didn't give it enough on this occasion.